Americans generate significantly more waste per person and struggle with inconsistent recycling systems, but the UK has systematically built one of the world's most effective waste reduction programs. In this video, we're talking about UK versus USA recycling and why America still seems to be wasteful while the UK has it more figured out. Now, the fundamental difference between these two countries starts with how seriously they took the waste problem from the beginning. The UK approached environmental challenges with the kind of planning you'd expect from a country that managed to rebuild after World War II. The Environmental Protection Act of 1990 wasn't just recycling legislation. It was a comprehensive strategy for waste reduction that established clear responsibilities, set targets, and created economic incentives. Remember that because that'll be important later. Meanwhile, America's taken a much more scattered approach. While Earth Day 1970 created genuine environmental awareness, the follow-up was inconsistent at best. Instead of coordinated national action, Americans got a patchwork of local initiatives that varied wildly in effectiveness. And the UK had another crucial advantage. European Union membership meant external pressure to meet strict environmental standards. The EU's packaging waste directive didn't just suggest recycling targets, it demanded them, with consequences for countries that failed to deliver. This external accountability forced Britain to take waste reduction seriously in a way that America's voluntary approach never matched. And this early strategic focus paid off enormously. While Americans were still debating whether recycling was worth the effort, the UK was building the infrastructure and economic incentives that would make waste reduction a default choice for businesses and households. If you walk through any British neighborhood, you'll see a system designed for maximum efficiency and minimum waste. Standardized bins, consistent rules, predictable collection schedules. It's a system that actually works because it's been thought through. Move from Manchester to Brighton to Glasgow, and you'll encounter essentially the same approach with minor local variations that don't undermine the overall effectiveness. The belief wherever you move in the UK is that you will still be recycling. When people know exactly what to do with their recyclables, contamination drops. When collection is reliable and convenient, participation soars. When the rules are roughly the same everywhere, there's not as much confusion that leads to perfectly good materials ending up in landfills. Compare this to America's chaotic approach where moving from one city to another can mean learning completely new recycling rules. There could be single stream recycling here, source separated cycling there, no program at all in some areas. And this is also down to funding. British councils get steady, predictable funding that allows them to maintain consistent service and plan long-term improvements. American programs often depend on volatile commodity markets, meaning they can collapse when material prices drop, forcing communities to waste materials they'd previously been recycling. And the UK figured something out that America largely missed. If you want to reduce waste, you need to make waste disposal hurt financially. The landfill tax makes throwing away materials genuinely expensive. Combined with producer responsibility schemes that make manufacturers pay for their packaging waste, Britain created a system where waste reduction isn't just environmentally responsible, it's economically essential. Councils recycle because landfilling costs too much. Businesses reduce packaging because they pay for disposable. Residents participate in recycling programs because they understand that waste collection costs money that comes from their taxes. The economic signals all point towards waste reduction. America took almost the opposite approach, treating waste disposal as essentially free for most people. While some states implemented bottle bills that work well for beverage containers, the vast majority of American waste faces no economic consequences. And the results speak for themselves. British household waste generation has been declining even as living standards have improved, while Americans continue to generate more waste per person than almost any other country. Speaking of recycling, there's an unexpected product I found that helps me to be less wasteful in my daily life, and that's the sponsor of today's video, Wild. I was looking for a more sustainable deodorant, which is part of Wild's ethos. Wild products are refillable, coming in reusable aluminum cases like this one with different designs. I'm currently using this adorable Snoopy one that is definitely my new favorite, but you can choose from a variety of different cases and even get them personalized. The refills look like this, and each refill saves 30 grams of plastic. You can keep the case for life and simply choose your new scent. This one is butterscotch, so you're welcome to everyone I will encounter in December because I will be smelling like a literal cookie. Now, the refills are super easy to plug in, put back into your case, pop it in, twist it up, and there you go. Wild's formulas are all certified vegan and cruelty-free, and there are no aluminum salts. I'm really glad I made the switch for me and the environment, and you can use my discount code GIRLGONE20 to get 20% off. Now, the code doesn't last long, so make sure you click on the link in my description, or you can scan the QR code on screen to get access to the 20% off code and discover the other benefits of Wild. There's also cultural differences surrounding deeper values. In Britain, reducing waste and recycling properly are seen as basic civic duties, like paying taxes or following traffic laws. There's a broad social consensus that everyone has a responsibility to minimize their environmental impact, and this translates into participation rates regularly exceeding 90% in most areas. British public education campaigns also reflect this approach. The messaging is very straightforward. This is how we reduce waste together, this is why it matters, and here is how you're part of the solution. As a matter of fact, this kind of value has been in the UK definitely since the World Wars and probably before that. There's an assumption that people will follow guidelines when they understand the collective benefit, and that assumption has proven largely correct. American recycling culture, by contrast, treats waste reduction as a matter of individual conscience and voluntary action. This creates impressive results in environmentally conscious communities, but it allows widespread waste generation in areas where people don't prioritize environmental concerns. The voluntary approach means that some Americans do go above and beyond while others do nothing at all, creating enormous variation in environmental impact. And the decentralized nature of American programs makes effective public education nearly impossible. With thousands of different rules across different communities, consistent messaging is impossible. This confusion leads directly to more waste, as people often give up on recycling when they're not sure what's allowed. And when it comes to recycling, we have to talk about contamination. Both countries face contamination challenges, but the UK's approach has kept the problem more manageable. Contamination is where someone essentially recycles something that can't be recycled because it is contaminated. British contamination rates typically stay between 15 to 20%, while American programs often struggle with rates exceeding 25% and sometimes hitting 40%. Higher contamination means more materials end up wasted instead of recycled. The UK's standardized bin systems reduce confusion that leads to contamination. British authorities also take contamination seriously, using enforcement measures like contamination tags or collection refusal to maintain system quality. America's contamination problems stem partly from the confusing patchwork of local rules and partly from the wish cycling culture that encourages people to throw questionable items in recycling bins and hope for the best. This approach might feel optimistic, but it actually creates more waste by contaminating otherwise recyclable materials and increasing processing costs. The economic impact of America's higher contamination rates is substantial. Contaminated loads get rejected by processors, meaning communities pay disposal costs instead of earning revenue. Now, when it comes to technologies, we have to give both countries their due. British investment in circular economic thinking and chemical recycling represents a strategic commitment to waste reduction that goes beyond traditional recycling. By breaking plastic down to its molecular components, these technologies can handle materials that would otherwise be wasted. The UK has also pioneered monitoring systems that track exactly what happens to materials throughout the recycling process, allowing for a continuous improvement and waste reduction. Smart bins, route optimization, and comprehensive data collection are helping British councils reduce waste while improving service efficiency. American innovation tends to be more scattered, with impressive individual technologies but less systematic implementation. US companies do lead in developing AI and robotics for sorting facilities. And this sort of reflects different approaches to problem solving as well. The UK tends to invest in system-wide solutions that prevent problems, while America often relies on technological fixes for problems that already exist. And the numbers do tell a clear story when we break it down. The UK achieves 44% household recycling while sending only 11% of waste to landfills, a dramatic transformation from the 80% landfilling of just 20 years ago. This is real waste reduction that prevents about 18 million tons of CO2 equivalent emissions annually. America's 32% national recycling rate might sound respectable, but it masks enormous waste in communities without effective programs. The per capita waste generation numbers are even more telling. Americans generate significantly more waste per person than Brits, reflecting the different economic incentives and cultural attitudes towards consumption and disposal. The higher waste generation overwhelms even successful successful recycling programs, meaning America's overall environmental impact from waste remains much higher. The UK's steady improvement in waste reduction contrasts sharply with America's stagnant performance. While British waste generation has been declining even as the economy grows, American waste continues to increase in many areas. Now, the 2018 to 2020 global recycling market crisis revealed the difference between these two approaches. When international buyers stopped accepting contaminated materials, the UK's stable funding and domestic processing capacity allowed most programs to continue operating. Some councils faced budget pressures, but the overall system remained intact. American programs collapsed in alarming numbers. Communities that had built recycling programs around selling materials to distant processors suddenly couldn't afford to operate. Some suspended recycling entirely, others drastically reduced accepted materials, and vast quantities of recyclable materials went to waste during the crisis. Now, the UK used this crisis as an opportunity to strengthen domestic capacity and reduced waste exports, while many American communities struggled to rebuild programs that had been dismantled during the crisis. Looking ahead, the UK's approach to future challenges reflects this same kind of thinking. The commitment to net zero emissions by 2050 treats waste reduction as part of a comprehensive economic strategy. Targets like 65% recycling by 2035 and eliminating avoidable plastic waste by 2042 are ambitious but achievable given the UK's track record. American goals remain fragmented and often voluntary, with individual states pursuing different agendas. Federal infrastructure funding helps, but it's being increasingly cut, and without coordinated national policy, America seems likely to continue the pattern of excellent performance in some areas while allowing widespread waste in others. Now that brings me to the end of this video. Tell us what recycling is like where you're from, and if you have opinions, as always, please do leave them in the comments. Thanks again to Wild for sponsoring, and I'll see you guys next time.